How's it going, guys? Angus here from Makers Muse, but you already know that. Thank you so much for joining me in this Patreon stream. Oh man, I haven't been awake for too long. It's awesome to join you here today. I'm gonna fire up the chat. There we go. Thank you so much for joining me. And as you can probably tell behind me, things have been pretty busy. There's not much studio left. We are well into the move to move across the new premises. We've got heaps of guys in the chat. Welcome. We got 3D Printing Llama, JT, Paul, Teresa, David, Shivel doing who's there doing some modding, but I don't think you'll need to do too much modding today. Do appreciate it. Ron making it so. Thank you so much, guys, for joining me. Angus has been robbed. Not quite. Man, it's luckily we didn't move very far. It's like just a couple of minutes away, really, which makes it very easy compared to when I moved here initially, which was an hour and a half away from where I was previously. So it's a lot easier, but there's still you really start to realize how much stuff you have when you move. You're like, oh, it's not too bad. Then you open the cupboards and the cupboards are full. And then you go to another room and there's like stuff under the tables. And it's like, oh my geez. It's crazy. So I want to have a last hurrah here. I may do a public stream before I clear out, but really I just wanted to hang out with you guys to sort of chat with you about 3D printing, tell you what's going on, keep you in the loop. We got Curtis in the chat as well. Welcome. Hakon, do you have room just for your studio in your new place? Yes. So the new premises is a duplex. We can't quite afford a whole house, but it's a new duplex. It's 2-story, and it has a proper garage. So this place has, as you would have seen in the reflection, that's a mirror, by the way. It's not a big room, it's a mirror. And on that side, there's a carport. Well, the carport's open on both sides to the elements. So that's what's restricted me from doing any messy workshop stuff, I suppose. So 3D printing's fine, but CNC milling, laser cutting, angle grinding, and welding, none of that's possible here because if I have gear outside and it rains, it gets destroyed. And we actually had a huge downpour yesterday, and it actually breached the gutter and it just went straight down. So like from the roof, not even from the sides. So that's why we had to get another place with an actual proper lock-up garage that's enclosed, which this new place does have. I do actually lose a little bit of undercover space. I will turn my phone off because, of course, everyone is now waking up. But overall, it's a big improvement. And you'll definitely see it's a more modern place with better lighting, and hopefully it's going to really improve the quality of the videos. It's a big step up in price, but I'm really hoping it pays off. It's just around the corner, so it's the same like area, which is awesome. Yeah, as Shivel saying, every time I've moved, I've made sure to hire a skip to bin all the crap. I don't have too much crap, actually. I've been really, really pruning back stuff that is actually worthless. I suppose it's a side effect of being a reviewer. I have printers that I can't throw away, and I can't give away because they don't work. I had this discussion last time, but for example, the remains of the TiVo Tarantula kit that I tested ages ago and didn't like. I mean, again, my version was old, blah blah blah, but that's in the cupboard. I still haven't moved that across. I can't give that away because it's worthless, and I can't use it, but I don't want to throw it away because it's still kind of good parts. So yeah, I'm sort of moving a lot of stuff that I do need. And I go to the tip quite often to chuck away packaging. In Australia, where I am, we can recycle cardboard fine and some plastics, but we can't recycle polystyrene. You have to pay to get rid of it. It's so frustrating. Our bins are tiny, and you can imagine like the raised 3D printer came in a huge casket of polystyrene. I have to pay money to get rid of that. So I have gotten rid of most of the packaging, actually, because it just takes up too much space. So who will be the first vendor to send someone unsolicited to the old address? Funny you should say that, actually. That's not the first time it's happened. Um, so I am very protective of my address, as you might imagine, because it's a public, it's a residential thing. And I live there. I don't want random people just turning up. But when I was in Perth, I worked with a few suppliers before I moved to Sydney. And I did have one supplier send a roll of very expensive copper filament to my Perth address. And I was like, where is it? It hasn't arrived yet. And they're like, oh, we sent it. It's like, did you send it to this address? They're like, no, we sent it to this address in Perth. I don't know what happened, but it actually arrived to my parents' address, which is the one that a lot of suppliers know because I was there for a few months. But the spools were beat up and cracked, and I'm not sure what happened. I don't know if the same roll it went to Perth. It might have gone to Perth, then back to the UK, and then to Sydney. I'm not sure, but that's happened before. And I can completely understand Tom's frustrations of people sending stuff unsolicited because, yeah, if stuff arrives here without me being here anymore, I'm not going to know. I'm not going to care, and it's going to go back to the supplier. So hopefully they'll check because, yeah, that my address has changed 5 times in the last 2 years. Yeah, I've moved a lot. Hey, we got Medic167. Welcome to the chat. And Dan, welcome. Thank you so much for joining, guys. And Brian, cool. And Gregory. Awesome. This is really cool, guys. It's really good to have you join me. All right. I wanted to fill you guys in on some of the stuff that happened with Flying Bear and the Flying Bear tornado. I feel it has to be done because of the direction it went. This is breakfast, by the way. So, as you would have seen, my review of that printer was quite negative. I experienced many issues with the machine, mostly due to quality control problems, which is why I was so frustrated. It was like machines that are coming out of China aren't always bad, but there is like a trend of bad quality control that you'll be well aware of. And this is like the final straw for me, and I kind of lost it. I was quite harsh in that review, but deservingly so, I think. Anyway, what happened is they freaked out and reached out again to me saying that, we didn't expect that, and it will destroy our company, and please, change it, or even like our suppliers are pressuring us to delete the video. But at the end of the day, I did send across my terms for an unbiased review, and I think there was this expectation of just free promotion. Unfortunately, I thought it was a language barrier thing initially because they said test video and promotion, and I did talk about it with Dustin in his recent live stream on Twitch. But I don't know. I think this expectation of just free promotion was there, even though I said clearly review. So that got out of control because all 3DP decided to do an article on it and sensationalize it and hype it, and that was not necessary. I didn't even want to make it public, but they did make that post on AliExpress saying that we didn't think Angus would do a review. What do I do on Makers Muse? Clearly, you don't watch the channel if you think I don't do reviews on printers. So that happened, but to be completely fair, it got blown way out of proportion because I was saying in that review that machine is fun to tinker with. I wasn't completely crapping on it. I was saying, yes, the BL Touch broke, and yes, it had various issues. But I actually have big plans for that printer to upgrade it because it's a really good metal frame. But just the reaction was so strong that it's almost like put me off touching it again. So that's the first time that's actually ever happened. I've had a bit of pushback before from negative reviews. Gambody was one. They expected just free promotion almost, and I went back and showed that their files were probably ripped from the game, and they sent me through like a 70-page PDF as to why I was wrong and why my print quality was poor and why it wasn't a good review of their system. But this is like the first time I've actually been contacted by the CEO saying like, you're going to destroy our company because of one review. And it was really interesting. Uh, but yeah, that's the full story, and I figured you guys need to know the full story because people like to sensationalize and hype things, and I think the situation would have been very different if the community was bigger. Because on the Flying Bear Tornado group, everyone's having the same issues. I did my fact checking, but if there was a bigger group of people, a bigger community supporting it, the outcome might have been very different. Yeah. So there you go. That's what happened with the Flying Bear Tornado, and I figure you guys deserve to know all the facts about that. I forgot who it was on the. Sorry, I'll just go back to Patreon. Someone asked one question. I will make sure I don't miss any questions that were on Patreon. Nope. It makes it so hard to see messages. And now it's laggy. Here we go. Okay, sorry. Let me find your questions. Someone was asking about the Up Mini. There we go. Wolfgang was asking one question. Which slicer are you using for the Up Mini, if you still use it? I bought one to start with 3D printing. For a start, that's an awesome printer to start with. My original printer was the Up Mini, and I love my Up Mini too. Very, very much. It works very well. I use the latest Up Studio, and it's not the best. It doesn't have G-code preview, but 99% of the time, prints that I send to it work. I mean, I know if prints will work kind of in my head, but it does have one flaw that you need to keep in mind is underside sharp points. The automatic software generation doesn't tend to pick up. It tends to ignore that. It needs it needs an underside curve or an underside flat. So apart from that, the Up Studio software is awesome on the Ups, but you can run custom G code now if you want to run that. I've literally never done it. I just run Up Studio on my Up. Kelvin is asking a really actually interesting question going back to 3D printing manufacturers in the chat. I got an email from Prusha. He encountered a problem with the first batch of powder-coated PEI spring steel sheets. Did you hear anything about that? I did actually. That's a classic example of scalability issues, and actually does go back to the Flying Bear issue to a degree. I don't doubt that Flying Bear own in their workshop a fantastic Flying Bear Tornado. The issue is once you start trying to sell hundreds of thousands of something, well, I doubt they sell hundreds of thousands of something. Prusha might sell hundreds of thousands. That's when quality control and other issues creep in because there's time constraints, cost constraints, material constraints, supply constraints, all kinds of things start creeping in. So it's a real shame, but I think that's what's happened to Joseph. Like maybe they had a different type of spring steel with a different coating, or maybe they used a different type of PEI powder. But yeah, it was peeling off the spring steel sheets. So he's gone into a huge issue with that, and he's had to resort to spring steel with just normal PEI sticker on it. I mean, look, it still works great. I mean, the PEI on the original Prusa Mark II is perfect. I have had no issues. But yeah, he's been very, very honest about it, which I really appreciate. He's not pretending that it doesn't exist. He's saying, look, we've had this issue, and this is the fix, and you can wait, or we can get a coupon code. And I think most of the community is actually being really really supportive of that because it's not his fault. He's trying to make something cool and new. No one's ever done this before. Remember, no one has ever done powder-coated PEI, to my knowledge, anyway, and certainly not on a large scale. So to be fair, there'd be issues. That's to be expected. So he's handling it really well, I think, and it's not a huge issue, but it is a bit of a bummer. Mark saying the maker community is so much better when there is no drama. I completely agree. I hate drama. I avoid it like the plague. As you would have noticed on Makers Muse, I very rarely cover any sort of hyped topics unless it's to put my stance out there, so I'm not automatically sided with someone. I don't like when people side me with them without actually having my input, like they speak for me. That grinds my gears. So I sometimes will get in will put my foot down for that, but I rarely get involved because I don't think drama should exist for 3D printing. I think we should all be empowered. We should all support each other, whether you like a printer that just prints or you like to tinker till the cows come home. I do not care. It's empowering nonetheless. But it is what it is. People don't like things that are different. Lucky Betty, welcome to the chat. Do you happen to know whether Prusa would support if one wants to get a powder-coated PEI sheet 500 by 500 millimeters in size? That'd be a custom job. I honestly have no idea how he does it. I don't know how the process works, but powder coating itself is like an electromagnetic kind of thing. It's no, is it static? Sorry, I think it's static that clings the powder to the part. Someone in chat, please clear me up. It uses high voltage, but that shouldn't be size limited, actually. It's a really good way of getting a uniform coating of a powder, and then you bake it to get it in place, to lock it in place. So I don't see why it wouldn't work, but I don't think he'd be using some supplier to do it. But I would say he's going to keep it his secret sauce for at least a little while. I would, if I spent all the time developing a PEI powder coating system. Yeah, Brian's saying electrostatic. Yeah, I thought it was static. Cool. JT, my i3 Mega's on its way, and I can't wait for the Ultra Base. Yeah, the Ultra Base looks pretty cool. I am testing a JG Aurora A5, which I posted on Twitter. It's a really big i3 design with a slanted front and a color touch screen. It's okay. Could be better. I mean, it's nice, but it's got 3D printed parts inside, which could be better. But that's got a really weird surface as well. It's like glass with little tiny dimples etched in it or printed on it. I'm not sure. And that works really well too. The parts stick down. I've only printed PLA so far. It's heated, and then when it cools down, the parts just pop free. So China's doing some cool stuff. I really wouldn't mind the i3 Mega. The only reason I haven't asked for one to review is because, again, like the CR10, a lot of people already have them. So with review videos, I tend not to jump on trending bandwagons. I tend to review things that I think are interesting or haven't been considered, which is, why I'm the only person who's reviewed the Flying Bear Tornado, or I jumped onto the Chonxy X1 because it's so cheap. I just like, how good is this cheap printer? I don't like to review machines that are very common. I figure there's already enough community support for them. You don't need another input. Shivel's saying the software for watermarking, you tried last night. Did you try throwing the STL through one of the fixing tools? Yeah, that's a good point, actually. So that software, a lot of people have commented since last night that I didn't remesh the file, and that destroys it. And yeah, it would absolutely, because you're changing everything on the topology. But that's kind of not the point. If you're invisibly watermarking something, a thief is not going to be like, oh, these triangles look like a watermark. I'm going to run it through a remeshing system in a bit of software to remove it. Because there's a few issues with that. Firstly, it involves skill, which people who steal stuff rarely have, otherwise they'd do it themselves. And two, remeshing generally degrades the quality of an STL file. Like if you just have a simple shape, like my vase example, that's fine. You can remesh it and not see any issues. But if you have like a detailed object with sharp edges and things, remeshing absolutely will degrade your STL quality. It'll degrade the geometry, no questions asked. So we'll using the Make Solid tool, for example, in Mesh Mixer, that'll also degrade it. So yeah, it will definitely remove the watermark, but at what cost? So I probably will do a follow-up because so many people have come out saying that's the best way to do it. And that is my counter to that, that thieves won't bother and it degrades the geometry. But yeah, it will definitely get rid of it. I did try after the video cutting part of the vase, and there's a certain slice, I think it's like almost like a third, when it stops working. But you can do smaller slices randomly and it still works. It's really robust. It's definitely the best option, I think, for watermarking currently. But again, it's not going to stop people stealing it. That's not the point of it. It's just to secretly mark something with your name in case you have to prove it's yours. Hmm. 3D printing llama saying, did you play with Idea much after the review you did? I do actually. I use Idea Maker quite often for the i3 style machines that I test. Uh, what have I been using mostly recently? I do use the Prusa slicer an awful lot though, because if I need a print done quickly, I know it works on the Prusa Mark II or it works on like the Up Mini. So the Up Mini has its own proprietary software, which is Up Studio. So I'll often be printing on the Prusa with the Slicer Prusa edition, or the Prusa Control is quite good as well. But yeah, if I'm printing on the other i3s, like the China ones, I usually use Idea Maker, and especially the Chonxy X1. I use Idea Maker for that too. Works really, really well. I'm amazed that it's free, to be honest, which is why I featured it in the Makerspace video series. Teresa's saying little dude's hellbent on a CR10 Mini. They're good machines. They really are for the price. The print volume to price is ridiculous. Yeah, he'd be happy with that for sure. Da, 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 da. Oh, enjoy. Thanks. Want to say, Angus, for your budget makerspace videos are awesomely informative. Even though I already have one, I added a couple things to mine. Oh, thank you so much, man. The whole budget makerspace series has been planned for over 2 years now. I'll be honest. The timing had to be perfect to make it work because 2 years ago you couldn't. 2 years ago you couldn't get a printer cheap enough. When I first started considering a budget makerspace, the machine I chose was the Fabricator Mini. It's actually the part of the reason I purchased it back in 2016. But that was like $300 Australian or something, 350 or 15. It was too expensive, and it's, to be honest, useless. Like the Fabricator Mini is a gimmick because it's just so small. I mean, it's cool, but the print volume is literally worthless. Whereas like the Chonxy X1 came out at the end of last year, and I was like, wow, okay, this is a 150 build volume. It's actually decent enough. It's got real step motors, and it's like, what was it, 150 US or something, so $200 Australian. That's what triggered the ability for this thing to work. And then, of course, I found that computer in the tip, and that was like, yep, I've got all the parts I need now. Let's do the series. So hopefully it inspires some people. I'm all about kind of removing hurdles. I don't want people to feel they can't do something because of price limitations or space limitations. And yeah, hopefully it gets some kids 3D printing. Teresa's saying, I'm not getting that kid an Xbox. And the thing a lot of people have mentioned, which is very fair, is that an Xbox is just the console. $500 US, remember? In Australia, it's $650 for Xbox One X. That's just the console. You need the games, and the games are $100 each. So I'm being quite fair, quite conservative, I suppose, setting it at 500 US for my budget when I could actually probably go a lot higher. Pop the chat out so I can catch up with you guys. T. Trevor is asking, do you have a recommended process or series of calibration prints for tuning a new filament or printer? Basically, how do you figure out your slicer settings for a new filament printer? To be completely honest, over the years, I've kind of developed a sixth sense for it. But if you're just starting out, you want to figure out if you're printing too hot or too cold, and you want to get your retraction right. So I have a video on retraction. I did use Simplify 3D, but you could use any software to test it. And that's just two little poles. So it just goes between them, and you can fine tune retraction to stop it getting sort of strings between it. I often print stuff like my Maker coin to see how good a part sticks to the base, how good the surface quality is. And then I have my tolerance gauge test, which is a longer print, but it shows me how accurate my actual extrusion widths are, so if the gauge actually works. And then for a real final test for retraction, temperature, and all of that, I have my lattice cube torch test, which is a real nightmare to print if you're just starting out. But if you get your settings correct and that works, you know that you pretty much can print anything. That's the idea of it. It's very challenging for an FDM. Brandon's asking, do you guys still make money on YouTube Red? I like the features, but don't want to screw you out of extra revenue. I'm going to segue into something else after this, but yes, I do. There's a category in the analytics that says YouTube Red revenue. The thing about YouTube, though, is where does that number come from? I mean, they could just be pulling it out of thin air and being like, yeah, we'll give this guy $20 of YouTube Red revenue, and we'll give this other guy $50, and we'll give this person $5. I mean, I don't know where that number comes from. There's no quantitative information. Whereas views, like you can correlate views to revenue normally because there's like a certain click-through rate. It's quite constant per 1,000 clicks. It's like a few dollars, $1.20 or something. But it's predictable. YouTube Red's not. A lot of people are moving to YouTube Red, and yes, we still get money. I just don't know how much. Which is why I have other income streams like you wonderful people supporting me on Patreon, because YouTube's very flaky. And going into that, I don't know if any of you saw, but a lot of people were moving over to VidMe as an alternative to YouTube. And I actually made an account on VidMe just in case I had to. And unfortunately, VidMe sent through an email yesterday saying that they're shutting up shop and closing down in December, and have immediately frozen all video uploads and new account creation. Yeah, so I don't know how you can compete with YouTube, really. VidMe was being pinned as a really good alternative, and a lot of 3D printing guys are jumping across to it, and now it's gone, which is a real shame. Let's have a look. Yeah, RIP VidMe. Medic167 saying, I'm printing my first big print, 60 hours for a helmet. I started printing a month ago. Have a CR10S and a Creator Pro. Awesome combination. Creator Pro is great for ABS. CR10 is great for PLA. 60 hours. I mean, I'll be honest, I don't print stuff much beyond 20. I am very impatient, and the idea of a print running for 60 hours, I've just been printing for so long, I know that it almost always will fail for me because I'll do something wrong. Like I'll have the filament that runs out or something will jam. So I know a lot of people have gotten awesome long prints off the CR10. I'm very tentative to do that. That's crazy. 60 hours. I mean, that's a humongous print. Make sure it doesn't run out of filament. Absolutely. Brian saying, I think Twitch is the only thing that can compete with YouTube. Yeah. Twitch is an interesting model. I've considered moving across some stuff to it, but I don't think I will. Mostly because Twitch requires you to be there all the time. Their model's built on constant streaming, because if you make a video, it disappears after a little while. It's not a constant archive, it goes. Which is why a lot of people stream on Twitch and then upload to YouTube, because the archive's YouTube and Twitch is live. But for me, my life is so chaotic, like ridiculously chaotic, that I can't have a regular streaming schedule. I mean, I'm trying to do this regular, and I've missed last week, for example, because of so much stuff going on. And that's just how it is being a sole trader running a YouTube channel. I am my own boss. This is Sunday, and technically it's work, but I really love it. But streaming is a job as well. You go into work and you stream, and I cannot commit those hours. I mean, I'd rather spend the time developing a project to put on YouTube so anyone and at any time of the day, anywhere in the world can watch that and learn something, rather than try to catch me live, I suppose. Like the live thing, I actually really, really like for community engagement. I love catching up with you guys. But for Twitch, it's a model that I don't think I could sustain. But absolutely, Twitch is probably the only real competitor to YouTube. And to be completely fair, if you are streaming, Twitch's system is so much better than YouTube's system. YouTube, the chat is janky, the streaming lag is ridiculous. And in Twitch, they've got the bit system. So if you want to contribute like a couple of like 10 cents, you can. Whereas on YouTube, it's locked down. It's really difficult to actually donate. And you can subscribe on Twitch to help their channel. Yeah, it's it's definitely better. So I'm hoping YouTube catches up at least for some of that stuff. Yeah, Teresa's saying best thing about working for yourself, it doesn't require pants. I made a joke that in my studio set where the table's like kind of waist height, I made a joke similar to that, and I'm like, I could not be wearing pants at all and no one would know. And some people were like, oh my God, I cannot like unsee that. I do wear like bag wash pants, which are really loose and comfortable. I'm a bit of a hippie, I'll be honest. If you see my older videos, I tend to wear like rave pants and things. I love those sort of comfortable pants. I do not wear tight jeans or anything like that. But absolutely, I love the fact I can wear what I want and not care. It's really empowering. Oh, we got Jatman in the chat. Dude, welcome. We're just talking about, how good streaming on Twitch is compared to YouTube. Shivel's saying if you want zero streaming lag, Mixer does it really well. Mixer. I'll have to check that out. That's why I love working from home. I call them no pants days. Oh man, yeah. Well, it's interesting because I think with the new place, you're probably going to start to see a bit more of an open style of video, because here I've had to keep stuff locked away to segment it from the rest of the house. The new duplex is a lot more open and airy and light, so I'll be able to do a bit of a mix of videos and sort of keep things a little bit interesting, not just a fixed studio where it's the same thing every single time. That will be the core studio, but I'll be able to mix things up, which I'm really looking forward to. And doing more crazy projects, absolutely. I just got so many ideas. Someone asked me, do I ever run out of ideas? No, I ran out of time. I always run out of time. And just going back on that, for the CAD for Newbies series, the next project, if I have time to film it before I go to Perth for Christmas, is this. So this is a lemon juicer, and it combines every CAD feature in Fusion 360 into one file. So it has a lofted lemon juicing bit, it has a revolved handle, and it has sweeped grips. So, and a extruded part there. So extrude, sweep, revolve, loft, all of them in one thing. So that's going to be like a taking to the next level CAD for Newbies tutorial. Hopefully I'll get it done soon. At least it's not pink. Oh, no matter what I do, like it's a lemon squeezer. What else would it be? Oh man, the thumbnail for that's going to get so much flack. That's what it is. Shiffle's saying, does it actually work? I'm yet to test it. But at the point of the video is not so much going to be if it works. It's going to be more iterative design, because it's not something that I would actually like use all the time, because you don't want 3D printed parts within your food. But it's part of iterative design, and that's just what I came up with to use all the features. Chaos looks like a YouTube buddy. Oh my geez. I do support some creators on YouTube, and one of them is Michael Reeves. If you haven't seen him, or actually maybe if you don't like crass humor with 3D printing aspects and design aspects, don't watch him. But yeah, I do quite like his take on how to defeat the YouTube demonetization by I'm not going to go into it anymore. have to go see what it was all about. Yeah, so that's one of the projects that I wish I had more time to finish because moving, woo. JT's asking, what about food safe PLA? Excellent question. You technically can't make FDM food safe because of the layers. It's not so much the material's not food safe, it's because food gets stuck into the layers and you can't get it out. So, like with every 3D print, you have the layers, and if stuff gets pushed into those layers, then you're never going to get it out again. There is ways around that. You can autoclave things, but if you put PLA in an autoclave, that's you're gonna end up with just a gloop, basically. So that's the issue with FDM is the layers make it not really safe for food, even though the filament might be food safe. Stop talking about it. I can't stop laughing. Yeah, so for that, for this thing, it's more of like the iteration process and testing rather than you're actually going to use this for a lemon juicer full time. Because no, I don't trust food safe PLAs. Speaking of companies going under, Tico finally filed for bankruptcy. Hopefully that's the last we hear from them. It's really interesting, actually, to go into that. I did a lot of series on Kickstarter projects about a year ago. So I went through Kickstarter and I would give my take on should you back it. It was a really, really popular series. And I had to stop it because what was happening was these companies were getting undue attention, in my opinion, and people were backing them, even if I said it's a bad idea. Now, there is exceptions to the rule. Ono, which was Olo, I said was just crap. I said, don't back it. Even if it isn't fake, it's a terrible idea. And people still backed it. And where is it now? I mean, we went to New York World Maker Faire and they had a working prototype. That's the first time we've ever seen a working prototype. I didn't see it personally. Joel Telling did and a few other guys did. It's the only time I've ever seen a working prototype in the wild since their campaign. And I don't think they've shipped yet. To my knowledge, they haven't. Yeah, there was the Peachy. Shivels saying that's another great example. That was even before I got to doing that series. I did mention the aftermath of Peachy Printer. There's another one called like the Anvil or something. I said doesn't even have like a window on it. And then I got a comment recently saying, oh, by the way, they failed and everyone's trying to get a refund now. So I stopped kind of making that series because I didn't want to give these stupid companies any airtime. Even if I was saying it was crap, I'm still giving them some notice. Because Kickstarter just went absolutely bonkers for 3D printers. I don't know why it's so attractive. I don't know what was wrong with machines on the market that you could just buy. Like, Tico was cheap, sure. But it wasn't like if you looked at it as an engineering perspective, it was made out of plastic. I mean, it had plastic rails. What long-term use could you get out of that? But it was cheap and people bought into it and they failed miserably, absolutely miserably. Dustin Chapman absolutely nailed it when he looked into all the issues recently. And his live stream on Twitch, just how badly mismanaged the funds were. Yeah, and in the chat, I think people demanding refunds are dumber than the bad Kickstarter. Exactly, a Kickstarter is not a pre-order; it's a donation. You are donating money in the hope you get something back, and they are not legally obliged to give you anything, which opens it completely up for legal exploitation and fraud. And I have shut down many fraud campaigns in the past because I could just see they were fake. There was a quadcopter one, which they were like brand new design quadcopter. It was just a Chinese drone that just like photoshopped into the air. So many fakes. So unfortunately, it destroys Kickstarter for the good ones, like the Pio Poly Moai was a good printer and he was on Kickstarter. He did reach his goal, luckily. But there was the smelly filaments, Dan's smelly plastic. Not the best name, I'll be honest, but like fragrant 3D printing plastic. Completely failed. And that was something no one's ever done before. Completely new polymer that they're using for 3D printing that actually promised what it said on the tin, and they had production lined up. Failed. And that's just what's wrong with Kickstarter. You know, people buy into hype, they don't buy into real products because it's managed like a marketing platform now. Yeah, the shipping thing on Tico was absolutely criminal, though. I agree. JT's saying, yeah, you got an email from BDO. The extra shipping that then just got eaten up, that's criminal. That was a little bit different to the Kickstarter pledge, actually. That might be ground for actually taking someone down for fraud. I don't know. I'm not legal, not a lawyer by any means. Yeah, Ron's saying the 3D printing version of penny stock, but not even so. I mean, penny stock's at least a stupid cheap, um, unless you buy lots of them. But yeah, the 3D printing stuff on Kickstarter is still not that cheap. I'll be honest, I completely didn't expect the 101 Hero to ship. That's probably the most cheapest printer that's ever been on there, $79 or something. But it did. But I didn't go into it thinking it would. I mean, that was just like throwaway money. It's gambling almost. Teresa's saying, why would you want scented filament? I don't know. That's probably why it failed. People don't really have a need for scented filament. I'm just saying it was something unique for once. There was that CX5 sculptable filament. I don't know what happened with that. I mean, did that fail? Or it hasn't delivered yet? That was another cool filament idea. There's so many failures. It's just a minefield. There's more failures than not. And I don't care what Kickstarter says. They're like, oh, we have so many success stories. Bullcrap. They do not. They have so many failures and some success stories. At least in the 3D printing and hardware space. I don't know about like books or movies, probably different, but hardware, especially when it involves electronics, always a disaster. Yeah, and Brian's saying even if you won the lawsuit against Tico for shipping money, they don't even have the funds to pay. That's it. They're bankrupt. Simple as that. And it's almost about time that I need to do a revisit to my start of 2016 video on like my predictions for the 3D printing space. One of them was that companies will go under, will go broke. Well, some of them have, but not as many as I expected. But yeah, I should revisit that because a lot of the things I did predict came true, but some didn't, which is good. Yeah, Tinkers are saying the scented filament failure was definitely poor managed Kickstarter. Yeah, he had no idea what he was doing. I'll be completely honest. That campaign the video was crass. The campaign wasn't promoted at all. I tried to get people in to see it because I'd used it, but it just wasn't up to scratch. And that's the issue if you're like an engineer trying to make a promotional thing. It's just not your bag. Pay someone to do it. It'll pay off in the end. I know these large campaigns spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on marketing. Like you guys would have seen the QBot ads. Like I had never even heard of QBot. The campaign went bonkers. They just had lots of marketing. Simple as that. Do I have any 2018 predictions? Next big thing in 3D printing? I do, but I haven't really put them down into like a list yet. So probably hold out for that. But yeah, I am. 2017's been the year of the Gear Best. 2018 might be something else. I'm not sure. I'll have to have a think about it. Kelvin saying, I designed the base for my Christmas tree topper in Fusion 360 for testing. I want to print it in draft mode to size it up correctly. After I got printed perfect, I printed it in fine mode, and now it fits loosely. How would I go about printing it correctly and in fine mode? Well, your tolerances will be less when you print in draft mode, but it shouldn't be that different. I would print a small portion to get the diameter correct. I mean, I'm hoping you're using like a pair of calipers or something to measure correctly. Just print a small ring or something to make sure that size is correct, and then use that size to guide your final model. Don't print the whole thing and then hope it works. So that's how I would approach it. Print a small portion in the quality setting that you're going to use. So Inkdroid, I think you can make a video on the companies that have gone. You can't give something that no longer exists free promotion. It would be informative. Yeah, actually, that's not a bad idea. I personally own 3 3D printers from companies that no longer exist. I have actually one of them. Yeah, the Pirate 3D Buccaneer was like the biggest freaking Kickstarter scam ever. It's one of the first actually. And that company technically still exists, I think. I think you can still buy one. So I have one of those. And I have a Rigibot, which was terrible from them. It didn't work very well. And then they went broke. And I have a Z Pro Zim, which was another Kickstarter, which then folded. I think they shipped though, but they're like a proprietary cartridge printer that doesn't exist anymore. So you have to jailbreak them. So that's 3. Yeah, it might be interesting doing a video on those. Oh, Manny, I did have fun unboxing the Pirate 3D Buccaneer, which should be known under a different name. Oh dear. I want to get it going though. It's just a piece of history, piece of terrible, terrible criminal history of 3D printing. Hey Joshua, welcome to the stream. No worries. This will be made archived and put available on Patreon, so you can watch it later at a later date. She was saying, I need a new 3D printer. I broke my current one. Yeah, interesting. Like for 3D printing in Australia, I get asked a lot about like where can I buy one locally, and there is a lot of suppliers, but it's a changing scene all the time because a lot of them just drop ship. Like 3D printing systems are based in Auckland, and I think they might have a warehouse in Australia, but they have a network of resellers who then sell the up printers. I'm a reseller technically. I could get one at a discount and sell it to someone at retail, but a lot of people just drop ship from people like 3D printing systems. So there's very few people who actually have machines that they actually test and have in stock. If you see a company with like multiple, like 10, 20 different types of machines listed on the website, they're full of it. They don't have them. Or they might have 1 or 2, and they just get the rest in from someone else. But the Aldi things changed everything. Like the Cocoon Create printers are amazing for the price, and no one in Australia in the 3D printing community can actually compete with that. No way can they compete. So yeah, it's interesting. Like short from buying straight from China, which you probably would be okay with if you could probably fix any issues you come across. Aldi's like the best bet in Australia to walk in somewhere to get a printer. It's really weird. Anywhere else I can think of, like JCar Electronics, they're way overpriced, and then it's just unnecessarily so. Australia's expensive, but that's like criminally overpriced in my opinion. Oh, Delta printers don't like being knocked off a desk. Yeah, don't think any printers like being knocked off a desk. That's probably done it. Teresa's saying filament sucks though. What, like the Aldi filament? I actually found the Aldi filament wasn't too bad. The Cocoon Create filament. I buy a lot of stuff from Hobby King. I'll be honest. I know a lot of people don't like Hobby King, but if I'm buying filament for myself, I do get sent a lot. But if I want just basic PLA, I just buy it from Hobby King. Again, their warehouse is so close to me though. The shipping's almost nothing. But that's just how I get my filament. Brian's asking a question. Is the 101 Hero company still in business? Yeah, you can buy them on AliExpress for about the same, like $100 or so. And they're on eBay as well. They're the same printer. I don't know if they've improved anything. But I did get contacted many months ago, like 6 months ago, about a new 3D printer called the Fort. from supposedly the same company that made the 101 Hero. And it was a cube printer, about so big, tiny, with Lego compatible panels on the side. A little black thing with Lego compatible panel. It looked awesome. It was just a render though. And I said, look, I'd love to test that. Please send it to me. I will test it and do a video and do a review. But I never heard back from them. So I don't know if they just gave up on that. I don't know if it's still in the works. But you can still buy the 101 Heroes. Just I would never do it. I like them as a curiosity, but they're just useless. Oh, JT's out. Oh no, Japman's out. Okay, catch you later, dude. Oh man. Dig Chaos saying he has a Dagoma Never Delta coming tomorrow. Joel's been testing those. One of those on 3D. His channel is, I think, 3D Printing Nerd. I think he's been testing the Dagoma. They look pretty cool, actually. They look pretty neat. Yeah, so sorry, the fort isn't. It just has Lego compatible panels, so it's for kids. I mean, I guess. But I haven't heard anything back from them, unfortunately. They tried to send me the Spark, which was like a tiny little DLP, I think, printer. But I was like, no more resin printers, not till I get a proper place to use them. Resin printing is so... I need to do a PSA on it, actually. How dangerous it is, how dangerous the resins are, the smells. There's almost no safety research into it, into the toxicity of the resins versus like regular plastics we use every day. And there's almost no control over them because they're different formulations. So yeah, resin printing is a bit nasty, and that's something that I need to probably talk about in the channel soon. Paul Arden, Fast FFF, any thoughts? I did check that out. If you guys haven't seen it, it's like a really, really fast 3D printer. I would say it's hype. If you see the issues with FDM 3D printing speed, it's threefold. You have melting the plastic, you have cooling the plastic, and you have the rigidity of the frame itself. So they seem to, if you haven't seen the video, they're like using a laser or something to melt the plastic really fast, which is great. But you need to cool it really fast, otherwise you're going to get drooping. As all of you will know, if you don't have adequate part cooling, the parts look terrible. So you need to cool the plastic quickly, and then you need a rigid frame. And the one they had in the video did not look rigid. It was like all over the place, and the part quality was pretty terrible. I just think it's the wrong way to go. I mean, FDM is what it is. It's not that fast. It's cheap. And if you have a well-tuned machine, it's reliable and fairly strong. That's what FDM is and what it always should be. If you want stuff fast, you kind of need a powder system or a resin system that has the ability to cure an entire layer at once, not draw infill lines like with a texter. It's kind of, to me, like turbocharging a plotter when you could just use an inkjet printer, if that makes sense. So it's a cool project, but I think it's missed the mark, to be honest. The video of you using a resin printer was enough to scare me away for a long while. I thought I did a pretty good job showing the safety aspects of it. Like the fact you need multiple isopropyl baths to clean the resin off. It's so messy. I tried to make sure I showed it safely using gloves and things. A lot of people testing these machines out now don't wear gloves, and that makes me cringe. Almost as much as people testing lasers without safety goggles on makes me cringe. Yeah, I refuse to show that sort of stuff on the channel. I actually got sent a laser once from GearBest a while ago, and I said, I'm not reviewing this. I put it together, and I'm like, this is so dangerous. I'm not freaking reviewing it. It could blind someone instantly. So, yeah, I do not show that on Makers Muse. Joshua's asking one quick question. Do you or have you heat treated your PLA to strengthen them? No, I haven't actually. Mostly because I don't want to put PLA into an oven that is in a rented household for risk of it just melting everywhere. It's something that I wouldn't mind testing once I actually have the right sort of gear for it. But I just printed in either ABS or polycarbonate for stuff I need to be strong, to be honest. It hasn't been something that I've needed to explore. Apparently, it shrinks a little bit. It only works with some PLAs, not all. Like heat's terrible with most PLAs, but apparently the parts shrink slightly. Yeah, Teresa's right. You should be able to get an MSDS and resins. Absolutely. A lot of the proper companies like Formlabs, their resins don't smell. They do have MSDS and they have a full safety sheet for it. The ones coming straight from China have like no such information. And they're the ones that I'm concerned about because they're the ones that have a really strong smell, really strong odor, and you have no idea what's in them at all. Hakon was asking what happened to the Kuka robot you had. Oh yeah, okay. So if you guys haven't seen, there was a series of videos I did last year. There was a few months. I was in a studio at the UNSW Makerspace, and I had a big orange Kuka arm behind me. That wasn't mine. I always showed it in the shots because it looked freaking awesome in frame, and I did help them move it and try to get it going. But long story short, Kuka lent it to the university to do whatever they wanted with, but Kuka didn't give them any training or give them the proper software to run it. So they actually had to put it into hack it into technician mode to move it, and that's about it. It wasn't mine. I wish it was, but it was just there basically to be used by the makerspace. But Kuka didn't really provide any training, so it just looked pretty in the window as all the people went past and looked in and said, "Ooh, wow, pretty room." So I was on display. So I was on display basically for a few months, even though I never went to that university as a student. But it was free. It was a free rent, so it was not bad. Yeah, and Shivel's absolutely right with IPA. A lot of people don't realize how bad it is when you don't use gloves. Yeah, solvents absorb into your skin, and they start to dissolve the lipids under the skin. Does that sound horrible? Yes, it is. And that's why it can like start to soften your skin, and then it dries it out because it's sucking the moisture out. So yeah, just don't touch it. You wear gloves. I should do a safety video on that. Absolutely. Yeah. Too bad about the robot. I wouldn't mind a robot arm, but I don't know what I'd do with it, to be honest. I'm not a coder. I've made it very clear on the channel that I don't know how to code at all. It's one of those things I can hack to make work, but I'm not going to learn how to do it from scratch. It's not what I do. Cool. Yeah, get a toaster oven for the PLA. I'm pretty sure it ended tears. It's worth testing out though. Oh, guys. So what's going on with the channel? What can I fill you in on? Well, I still need to do the Zortrax M300 review. They're not very happy that that hasn't been done. And I'm going to get that done soon. But I am going to Perth for Christmas. So if any of you are in Perth, I've been talking to Tim over at Frontier 3D to do what we did last year when I was there, which is like a 3D printing meetup. So the idea is that people can bring printers along and show them on the day and just have a catch up. So I'll be talking about that on the channel, and I'll probably film a vlog there as well, just fill everyone in, maybe even stream, depending on the connections like. So that's, if you're in Perth, then by all means, keep an eye out on the 3D printing meetup Perth page to see. But anything new for 2018 on the channel? Well, obviously the new space. The new space is definitely the biggest upgrade. I'm working on a video course. I've mentioned before that I've got the working on a buyer's guide update, but also I'm working on a beginner's 3D printing update. And I'm trying to, for lack of a better word, I'm trying to corner the market for beginners in 3D printing with a non-biased approach. That makes sense. I want to provide valuable education for people just getting started all the way up to skill them up to the level that I usually talk at the channel, because people coming into Makers Muse now, like the video on the STL file protections, if you're just new to 3D printing, that will make zero sense. Talking about mesh files and editing and mesh mixer, like that's up here. But what I want to do is have a ramp from here to skill people up to that level easily, which is partly why I did the Makerspace video series, because I want people to learn to get into 3D printing easily without barriers. And then that's why I do the 3D printing 101 course series, which is free. But there will be like a beginner's guide video course that will be like 2 hours long. That will be like $15 or something, not very much. So that's kind of what I'm moving on to next year, because YouTube has very much proven itself to be an unreliable source of income. So while the channel is hugely valuable, and I'll be still making awesome projects and random things, and expanding to other machines than 3D printers like CNCs. Now I have an undercover space. I'm kind of also keeping fingers in many pies to keep the ball rolling. Yeah. That's the plan. But again, plans never survive the first seconds of battle, do they? So we'll see what happens. Did Lady Muse ever get her drawing tablet from me? She hasn't reached 1,000 followers yet, but she will be getting one next year, no doubt. She already has one Cintiq, which is a very old version, but the newer one has a color accuracy that she needs. The old versions had very poor color accuracy, so you draw in magenta and it looks different. And that's really frustrating for an artist, I would imagine. For me, I wouldn't care, but as an artist, you want the colors to be what you think they are. So that's why she needs a new one. Brian's saying, is there a way to cut an STL like a puzzle or stained glass window? I'm working on lithophanes for a lamp. There would be, but yeah, I'm not. Hold on a second. Hello.
The gym door is locked.
I'll let you go. Like, you can't get it. Yeah, you do. No, I can't.
Bye.
Oh, here's my keys then.
I got you. I followed you.
Oh, jeez. Go away then. She knows I'm streaming too. Yeah, sorry about that. He's like, oh, I can't be bothered opening the door. Angus is streaming. I'll go bother him. That's why she's not getting a tablet anytime soon. Speak of the devil indeed. What was I talking about? That's right. This the cutting an STL like a stained glass window. You could probably do it in Mesh Mixer, but it would be a bit tricky. Ideally, what you want to do is have a file in Fusion and then use the patchwork space to cut bodies, like I showed for the candy cane tutorial with a sweep. That's pretty how you'd do it. Yep, Teresa, you're absolutely right. It's what it is. I'm the guy that does the videos, and she's just like, haha. Shiv was saying there's lots of kits on AliExpress, laser cutting engravers. Can you review some of them too? Yep, going back to that again, I did get sent one. I got sent is it called the A3? It's like a laser engraver set it's about this big, aluminium extrusions with rollers with a 5-watt laser diode. And it works, and other channels have reviewed them. I'm not going to name names, but the fact of the matter is it's completely unsafe. And if I was going to show it, I would have to build a box around it and show it safely, because, and I'm deadly serious about this, lasers are one of the few things that like terrify me, because yeah, with 3D printing, you burn your finger. It's like, ow, I've learnt my lesson. Lasers, you laser yourself in the eye, you're done. With an instant, you've lost your sight. And that terrifies me. And quite frankly, there's too much, I guess, sort of casualness about these laser engravers on YouTube right now. So I don't really want to do that, because I don't want anyone to get hurt. And they do come with glasses as a free gift. Like, you think they should come with them normally, but you should absolutely be wearing them. But we'll see. Look, I do want to get a proper laser cutter, like a proper one with an enclosure, with a CO2 tube, with mirrors and an extraction system. Like, I would love that. But the cheap ones, they scare me. I'll be completely frank. Yeah. But yeah, maybe with a safety side of things, I could actually make the video more valuable. Yeah, Tinkers, if you're afraid of 3D printing catching fire, lasers should terrify you. Yeah, not so much afraid of most of my printers catching fire, just the really, really crap ones. I don't run the crap ones without my presence because, yeah. Yeah, so lots of things coming. I'll post out about the stuff in Perth. I know a lot of you guys aren't in Perth, but I would like to do something similar in Sydney, to be honest. If I could find the right place to host it, like a 3D printing meetup where people can bring their printers and show and tell, kind of like a show and shine, but with printers. Like, why doesn't this exist? I don't have time to organize it, but it should exist. And yeah, I'll be probably doing one more public stream in this space before we finish moving. But it's going to be pretty disruptive. I am going to be late with my Makerspace next video because just it's all in bits. So I don't know how well I'll keep to that timetable, but I really, really do appreciate your support, guys, for Makers Muse. It really, really brings it all together. As I said just before on Patreon, this month's been a bit ridiculous in terms of finances. The car needed some serious repairs, and the new place has the bond and all that. So I really, really do appreciate your support to make this possible because, yeah, this is my job and I love it. Absolutely, absolutely love it. Sim Paradox saying years ago I was photographing a dancer when I was wearing a suit of mirrors, who was wearing a suit of mirrors, and a laser aimed at her. One reflected beams up the lens into my eye. Wow. Yeah, that's exactly what terrifies me. It only takes a few seconds. Luckily, that wasn't like a super focused beam, but yeah, that's exactly why I'm terrified of it. Cool. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining me. They predicted heavy storms all weekend, but it's currently a lovely day in Sydney, so I recommend you go out and if you're here, go see it. Although the Christmas shopping will be intense. And again, if you have any questions, just shoot them through on Patreon and get back in touch with you. And yeah, till next time, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again very shortly here on Makers Muse. Awesome. Thanks for watching, guys. Okay, see you soon. Where's the button? I've lost the button. There we go. See you later.